Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I will be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I finally tackled the beast that was sitting on my shelf for months and months now. Normally I do like to play shorter games so I can play a new game every week. But every once in a while I do like to sink my teeth into a big, hearty RPG such as this. I think the last one that I played through was Fire Emblem Three Houses. So it was about time that I indulge in a big project like this. I'm going to start this review right off the bat with some ramblings about my history of the series. I had played through all of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and you can start with either one, the first or the second. They are only loosely connected plot-wise with totally different protagonists. So start one with whatever one you want. However, I would recommend playing through the first one first because the battle mechanics build upon the first one in the second one. So it might be a little bit more complicated to learn the second one if you haven't played through the first one first. I was able to play this game probably earlier than most people in North America because originally this game was not available in North America. It originally came out for the Nintendo Wii, and the Wii was region locked, and the game hadn't come out for the Wii yet. So I was having my first sleepover with my friend, and he was all hyped up about this game. He just was dying to get me to try it out. So he brought over his Wii that had a homebrew on it, so I was able to play this game. He had it all set up, and I did play through it to the first major plot point. If you have played through this game before, you know what story beat I'm talking about. So not very far at all, maybe like an hour in, and we decided to take a break, like go get some Taco Bell or whatever. And when we tried to boot up his Wii again, it was not working. We just couldn't get this thing to turn on, and we Googled everything trying to fix it up. We even went to Walmart, bought a can of air, trying to clean up the interiors of this system. We couldn't get it to work. I'm not sure if he ever did. So I suggested we just, I show him this new game that I was playing called League of Legends, and he's still playing that to this day. Eventually, this game did become more accessible to North America. I'm not sure if it ever got its own Wii version for North America, but it was available on the Wii U eShop, and the new 3DS also got a port of this game, which I am just baffled how they were able to get this game running on a 3DS, even if it was for the new 3DS only. The version I played, however, is the Nintendo Switch version, which I imagine is most people's first introduction to this game. The plot itself is pretty crazy, I want to say. The exciting thing about this game is probably its world building to me. And so let me just set the scene. It's this endless sea of nothingness, and two titans are locked in battle, like giant titans. There's the Bionis, he's like this rock-looking guy, and the Mechonis, he's a metal titan. And they're just battling with their swords, and they both strike a blow to each other at the same time and end up killing each other. And hundreds of years pass, and then life starts springing on the titans. The titans themselves are like the world, and the Bionis, all this life more similar to Earth, starts springing up on it, like the humanoids called Homs. There's the animals, the grass, the trees, all that starts springing upon the Bionis. And then the Mechonis starts springing all these robots called Mechons. And now the inhabitants of these titans are locked in battle too. They just hate each other. It's just this constant war between the two. Unfortunately for the residents of the Bionis, there's only one weapon known that can damage the Mechonis, and that is the Monado, a special red sword. So the Mechonis pretty much wipe out all of the Homs, the humanoids. And our story takes place with our main protagonist, Shulk, on Colony 9. And Colony 9 takes place like on the foot of the Bionis. And in Colony 9 is the Monado. Unfortunately, nobody knows how to use the Monado except for Dunban. And he was badly injured in the last war with the Mechonis. And the Monado itself is doing a number to his arm too, so he is not able to use this Monado. We're just sitting ducks pretty much, hoping that the Mechonis don't discover Colony 9. I think it's just cool traversing across this Bionis. You look out in the distance and you can see like parts of the Bionis. You can see like his arm or his head, and then if you look across the ocean, you can actually see the Mechonis, and you're like, oh, that's where the bad guys are. And as you traverse across these titans, it gives you this little indication indicator of where you are on the Titan. And it's just such a cool world setting rather than, oh, this is just a planet. No, you're like on a dead Titan, like traveling up his leg, or like you're traversing across his arm. Eventually you go to like the sword that struck the Bionis and killed him. Just such a cool world setting, and visually it looks so nice. The Bionis himself is just full of this like ethereal life and such vast biomes. You're traversing across all these unique destinations as you travel across it. One of my favorite places is this, it's just called the Satori Swamp, I think, and during daytime it is just these dead trees and this like poison bogs, but at night you can just see these like colorful fumes that you probably shouldn't be breathing in. But it is just such a beautiful game, and you can look up in the sky and it's just covered in stars. Visually a very, very nice game. I'm getting a little sidetracked though. The plot, eventually, the Mechonis do attack Colony 9, and Shulk discovers his ability to wield the Monado that can defeat the Mechonis, but his abilities aren't enough to drive them away. So the Mechonis do attack Colony 9, and now Shulk and his buddies are mad and they want to go get revenge on the Mechonis. We saw the Mechons travel away from Colony 9 upwards of the Bionis, so now we're traveling up the Bionis in order to get our revenge. And the plot unfolds from there, but in order to avoid any spoilers, I will just say that there's a lot of story beats here and it is a very long game, but I was always invested in what's going on with the plot. I mentioned Shulk's friends. You do garner a colorful party. I think all of the crew members are very interesting and fun and likable. They all have their own personalities and ambitions. You have Rhine, which is pretty much like Shulk's Samwise Gamgee, right? Like just his loyal friend, and he kind of acts like a tank. You come across Charlotte, and she's like this healer that heals you by shooting you with these ether bullets with her gun, which is kind of funny. You acquire like a Nopon, and Nopons are these weird little, they're kind of like the comic relief of Xenoblade Chronicles. They are these little fat puffball things with wings that can also act as arms. I don't know. They're weird critters, but they kind of talk like cavemen. Just lots of different characters, and they all have their own ambitions, and they all have their own stories that play out throughout the game. I was just invested in everyone. Part of what kept me so invested is the many cutscenes and cinematics that this game has, and a lot of it is voice acted. This game was originally translated to English from English voice actors, so they all have this English accent that I actually really enjoy. They kept up with this tradition in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as well. It's just pretty interesting because I don't play too many games that have English voice actors, so it is just a nice change of pace. With all the cutscenes and cinematics that they have, it is rather impressive that it is all voice acted. The only time that you are just reading text is during the side quests. And I'd say the side quests are probably my biggest complaint about this game. There are a ton of side quests. It is not unusual to approach a new city, a new town, and you're all excited because it's in a new environment and you get to see all this new stuff, and then you just get bombarded with like 20 side quests. And I'm sure a lot of these side quests also have their own interesting stories, but there are just too many for me to read all that text. Usually I'll just go up to a guy with an exclamation point and just spam that A button. A. Just skip all the dialogue. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what my objective is. And most of the time, the objectives are pretty generic. They are go kill this many guys, go gather this many items, go collect these items dropped from guys that you kill, and sometimes when you kill a guy, they won't drop the item that you're looking for and you'll have to kill more guys. Pretty basic side quests. If you ever played a MMO, like World of Warcraft, you kind of know what to expect from these quests. Every time you defeat a guy, you can loot a chest that he dropped, and you just hope that he drops the items required for side quests. There are also certain conditions that need to be met in order for you to accomplish some of these side quests. I mentioned that there is a day and night cycle, and you are able to change the time to whatever you want. but sometimes these things only appear at the night, sometimes only during the day, and sometimes the quest givers themselves only appear at the night or during the day. And then you also add weather status changes, so sometimes quests can only appear if it's raining or a thunderstorm or a heat wave, and that you cannot control. So you are just cycling through the days trying to hope that the conditions are met in order for you to even be able to do these side quests. They are pretty generous with their side quest markers, however. You can just open up the map, and if you have explored that area before, you will see an exclamation point over exactly where you need to go, what you need to defeat, if, like I said, if the conditions are met. And that is where I have trouble. A lot of the times I would do all of the side quests that were on the map, and then it was Google time trying to figure out, okay, what conditions need to be met, where do I need to go to do this side quest. And I did actually do every side quest that I came across, so I did get pretty sick of this system by the end of the game. This Titan that you're walking across is huge, and there's lots of vast open land for you to walk across. Sometimes it can be a little tedious trying to explore a new area because you're just walking across this boundless area with, you do have a lot to look at visually, but it can just get a little samey. They are pretty generous with their fast travel landmarks, however, and if you discover a new landmark, you're able to fast travel to it anytime, anywhere. So it does make moving around the place a little more manageable. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the game. Let's talk about the combat. I compared this game to World of Warcraft previously, and that's probably what most people could understand combat-wise. You know, you go near an enemy, you'll start auto-attacking them, and then you can use your abilities known as arts in this game. They are all in their individual cooldown, so you're using these abilities that all have different effects. Positioning does matter in this game, so some attacks do better or activate their effects if you're attacking from the side or the back. There's lots to know here, so if you are pretty new to a game like this, I already went into this game knowing what auras do or what aggro means, that kind of thing. But if you aren't familiar with those traditional RPG mechanics, you will have a lot to learn here. You have up to 2 party members. Most of the time I was playing as Shulk, as he is the only one who can naturally attack the Mechonis. He does have this ability to let his party members attack Mechonis, but he has to activate it first every battle. So if you are using Shulk as a team member, you are not able to control him. Unlike the Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where you could cycle between your characters in mid-battle, this one you can only play as the party leader, and you are not allowed to switch in battle. So most of the time, if you don't want to rely on your AI companions to activate the ability for you to attack the Mechonis or whatever, I just feel like this game really incentivizes you to play as Shulk. It's not like I want to tank for AI or heal my AI anyway. The AI in this game leaves something to be desired. There's a whole mechanic where you have to put people in a topple effect. So in order to topple enemies, that's like you knock them down on their sides, they're not able to attack, they take extra damage. You have to set up this combo of break, then you topple them, and then you daze them. And not many characters have the ability to do all 3 of these things at once. Most of the time, Shulk only has the break ability, and you have to rely on some of your teammates to activate the topple, and then after an enemy is toppled, you can daze them. This is pretty annoying trying to wait for your teammates to do the right thing compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where I could play a Shulk, I could apply the break effect, and then I could hurry and switch over to my teammate and then apply the topple effect. Like I said, it just kind of gets frustrating waiting for your teammates to do the right thing. I do think that this system is easier to grasp than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has this whole system where you're building up these elemental orbs to pull off a ton of damage. It did have this whole topple daze thing, but that didn't seem as important of triggering as it is in this game. In this game, you really need to activate the topple to damage certain enemies, to hold certain enemies down. There's also a whole inventory and gear system in this game, similar to most RPGs. like I said, I know what certain stats do right off the bat. You don't really need to teach me what agility does, or what HP up necessarily means, or how to gem certain inventory, certain equipment has sockets that you can apply additional effects to, and I kind of already know what all that means, but it could be pretty complicated for someone fresh off the boat to understand that they can make gems and they can socket their inventory. I do like that the equipment in this game all has its own visual style. So you put on a headset, you put on a breastplate, you put on legs, feet. They all have their own unique looks. And this look for your characters does show up in all of the cutscenes. Even if you don't like the look of your certain armor that you have equipped on a guy, you are able to set the appearance to a different equipment, and then you can keep the stats of the better stat equipment. So tons of customization here. I just am so impressed that all of the characters can have all their own equipment, and they all look different, and it shows up in all of the cutscenes. Very impressive. And I did like making Shulk and my other team members look cool and awesome. There's a lot of awesome looking gear in this game. This game gets flacked for repeating voice lines a lot during combat. It didn't seem to bug me as much as it bugged other people, but during combat, especially if you use the same party members over and over again, they say the same things during combat all the time. Like Ryan will say, "It's Ryan time," or like when you defeat an enemy during combat, he'll say, "Good thing I'm here. No? Anyone?" And Shulk, he'll say, I'm really feeling it. And they'll just say the same thing over and over again. I thought it was pretty funny, but I could imagine it being pretty annoying to a lot of other people. You are able to turn this volume down in the settings, however. It's just that whole RPG thing, you know, you like to see the numbers go up, you like to level up, you like to manage your stats, you like to level up your arts. But there is a lot of managing in this game, which I could see being either a real turn on or turn off, depending on who you are. So just know what you're getting yourself into. You are going to be managing your team members all the time. You're going to be doing a lot of quests, getting a lot of XP, a lot of the traditional RPG mechanics. I like the monster designs in this game. There are some really cool designs. I like the look of the mechons, these evil looking robots, but even on the Bionis, you come across a lot of cool enemies like dinosaurs with this armor and like giant ogres. Lots of cool things, just huge giant flying stingray alien looking things that you have to battle. It is all very interesting designs here, and it is really fun to look at. That doesn't necessarily make all the side quest grinding enjoyable per se, but you know, normally when I am doing the side quests, it's more of like a podcast time, you know, like when you're going through the main story, the main campaign, that's when you have the volume up, all your attention is on it. But when you are grinding through all the many side quests that this game has to offer, that's when you turn the volume down and you put on a good podcast and just kind of zone out, grind out. You know, and a lot of people do like doing that. They like just grinding out side quests while they listen to a podcast or watch a TV show or something like that. And some of the side quest stuff is streamlined, because when you collect a certain amount of things, if the story doesn't progress after you complete the side quest, it just completes it right then and there. Once you meet the conditions, you don't have to go like turn in the side quest. The deaths are forgiving as well. I mentioned the fast travel landmarks. Whenever you die, you just pretty much instantaneously travel back to that landmark. I don't think you lose any XP that you had gathered up during the fight or anything like that. Your weapon or your gear doesn't become more vulnerable or anything like that. You don't have to repair items, nothing like that. So it isn't that devastating dying. Now the big question is, do you have to do all of these side quests? Is it a pretty grindy game? And for the most part, I would say yes, you do have to do the side quests. Most of the time, I was pretty on par with the level of the enemies that I was fighting, even though every area that I would do, I would clear out the area, do all the side quests. By the time I got to the next area, I was the same level as the enemy. So I imagine if you skipped these side quests and just focused on the main story, you would be pretty under-leveled. In fact, I have to admit, near the end of the game, I did hit a wall. It was like the third to last boss was pretty significantly over-leveled compared to me, and I had done all the side quests that I possibly could, but I was still underleveled compared to this certain boss. And so the way I saw it, I had three choices. I could either A, go just kill a bunch of guys and grind up enemies, which is pretty boring because you would have to defeat a lot of enemies if you don't have side quests helping give you that little extra XP boost. I could just tap out, just say I'm done with the game, but like, who wants to do that? I guess I could have looked up YouTube videos about what happens later. Or C, this game offers a casual mode. And I know a lot of people will look down upon this, but I don't think there's a problem in turning on the easy or the casual mode. And especially if I just needed to finish up this game, yeah, I turned on the casual mode and I never died after that. It is pretty easy. However, I can only imagine how hard these last couple bosses are in this game if I wasn't on casual mode. Because even on casual mode, these final bosses took a long time to fight. I never got a game over fighting against them, but they did take a long time. They have a ton of health, and I want to say near the end they were a good 10 levels higher than me. So even if you do all the side quests, expect to do a lot of grinding if you are opposed to turning on the casual mode. The story is so amazing though. I was completely hooked on what happens to Shulk and this whole world of Bionis and Mechonis. Visually, just so many hype moments. The designs of the bosses looked so cool. It was a long game to play through though. Even when I turned on the casual mode and I didn't grind the last couple bosses, this game took me over 40 hours to beat. So expect a long time constraint when you dive into this game. So I finally beat the game, more than 40 hours, feeling pretty good about myself, and that's it, right? Nope, you still have a extra bit of content to play through if you play through the Nintendo Switch version. That's right, there's extra content here in the form of future connected DLC. I actually don't think it's considered DLC if it comes bundled with the port, but either way, I'm gonna just call it DLC. So if you just can't get enough of Xenoblade Chronicles, I was kind of feeling burnt out by the time I had finished this main game, but I knew if I moved on to something else, I would never get to this Future Connected DLC. So yes, I did play through all of the Future Connected, and this takes place a year after the events of Xenoblade Chronicles. It's mostly a Melia-focused story. Melia is kind of your mage that you encounter in the main story. So Melia and Shulk, they travel to her old city, and their plane gets shot down. The plot unravels from there. You are accompanied by two Nopon companions, and they are the children of your original Nopon companion in the main game called Riki. You don't have to roll the R, but he does. And so his two children, he has like a ton of children, but two of these children accompany Shulk and Melia on their adventure to figure out what's going on with her city, why is it under duress, and we are just trying to solve the solution of all the residents who live around there. You better like Nopon if you play through this DLC, because there are a lot of Nopon. Like I mentioned, two of your companions are the main voice acted Nopon, but there's a little side game where you are doing side quests for these prospector Nopons, and every time you do a side quest for one of these guys, they will join with you and help fight with you. Now, they just do a little bit of damage, but you can get up to 12 of these Nopons that fight with you. So by the end of the game, you're walking around with 14 Nopon companions. You have a whole Nopon army. I wasn't too annoyed by this. I do like the Nopon, even though they talk pretty silly like cavemen, even though they are just there for comedic relief. I do like the Nopon. And I just think it's funny that all of them follow you even when you're not in combat. You just have this whole line of them following you around. And it was fun doing all the side quests and building up your army. I did notice this DLC chugged sometimes. The main game, I never really had a problem with this, but it would slow down pretty significantly, probably because all the Nopon battling on the screen, but it would slow down occasionally. This happened, 4 or 5 times during a big boss fight. I did not have to turn on the casual mode for this DLC. It just starts you off fresh. You reset your levels. Your progress doesn't carry over from the main game, and I did all of the side quests in this DLC, so I was on par with the level of the last guys that I was battling. It is pretty necessary for you to do the side quests in this DLC, I will say as well, but it is not impossible, and you do not have to grind random enemies. I played through this DLC mainly as Melia, actually, because I was pretty bored of Shulk by the time I had finished the main campaign. And in this game, you do not fight any of the Mechanists, so you do not necessarily need Shulk's Monado abilities. So I played as Melia. She is, like I said, she's like your mage, she's like your spellcaster, and I had a great time learning how she controls and plays. It kind of got me thinking, I never really used her in my main game party because you can only have up to 2 other team members, so normally I would have my healer and my tank for the main game, but in this game Shulk kind of acted as my tank and I was just dealing a ton of damage as Melia. She's pretty interesting. She builds up these 3 orbs that all have their passive effects, and then you can activate the orb to do like a powerful spell, similar to, I guess, the mage from Slay the Spire, if you ever played that. It's kind of interesting because I was getting a little burnt out during my playthrough during the last of the game, but this DLC reinvigorated my passion for the series and I had a great time playing through it. It was nice just starting over, starting fresh. It was pretty scaled down as well, so it didn't feel as overwhelming. I don't really know what else to say here. At the end of the day, you know if you like this type of game or not. I bet most of you watching this, in my experience with other casual reviews, you've already played through this game and you already love it, and you're just seeing what I have to say about one of your favorite games. So you already know if you love it or not. Myself, I think I will give this game a 4 out of 5. It just had a couple of those side quest hang-ups, a lot of filler in my opinion, but I can certainly appreciate it for the amazing game that it is, and I did, overall, looking back, I had a great time playing through it. I could easily see this being a lot of people's favorite game ever. So if what I talked about piqued your interest at all, I certainly recommend giving this game a shot. I'm just baffled that this game was originally on the Wii and was ported to the new 3DS because it is just so huge and impressive and ambitious, and I understand that visually it got an overhaul with the Nintendo Switch, but I just can't believe that this game was originally on the Wii because of how big and chunky and I don't know, it's just a crazy experience. You're certainly getting a bang for your buck if the time required to play through this game has any measure on how much the game is worth. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Xenoblade. Let me know why it's your favorite game. Let me know why you hate this game. I'd love to hear what you have to say. That's it for me though. I'll talk to you later. Bye!